Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine, living heirs who are the Moorish divine and national movement of the world, the Moorish American Consulate, the Moorish National Republic Federal Government, and the Moorish American Consular Court. There is a bit of an echo, so I'm going to go ahead and mute those coming up on the sound meter. Islam. So we want to first, let's see, there's still a little bit of echo coming up. I want to make sure I get it. Okay, there it is. All right, we first want to give honor to all of the sovereign heirs. Much honor, much love. We have made much progress. There's Justice Malik, Islam. We have made much progress over the last 2.5, 3 years. We have completely changed the surface of the earth and the makeup of it by our sovereign demonstration. So I'm excited about that, and I hope that you are too, because the work that we all have done is showing fruit. The fruit is showing. It's definitely, even those who may have had a little bit of a hard time seeing the fruit manifest can see the fruit manifesting even now. And that has the things that we're seeing, the changes that we're seeing that are being made now are from the fruit from the very beginning. And the things
hey,
that
Malo, did you take over a fucking post up?
Further, even it will manifest further in the next few years and over the next few months, etc. So the first thing I wanted to do is Justice Malik L from our Canaan land territory is going to do an astrological and cosmological reading for us so that we can see where we are as a nation, because we know that we navigate by way of the stars and not by way of anything that was fraudulently created by the corporation company. And then after that, we're going to talk about the land and proper claim to it, because many, and I'm starting to believe that all of us have things on the public record whereby we have a grandmother or an aunt or someone in our kinship line who had land on the record, and that land was fraudulently taken. And when I say on the record, I mean even on the corporate record. And the land that was taken by way of fraudulent means, really they just capitalized. There's been some capitalization of the titles, and they changed the titles. They didn't change the titles, but they fraudulently created deeds and passed them off as titles. And that's not really what that is. Deeds and titles are not the same. And those holding title and those who are the heirs to the title are the true lawful possessors at all times and owners. And so we're going to look deeply into that, because more and more heirs are coming forward where we're able to look back into the 1800s and some into the 17 and 1600s. And then the rest of us were able to look all the way back into time immemorial and see where we are the heirs to the land. And now we have some new developments. And actually, they're not new developments. They're ancient developments that have been recently revealed and uncovered with regard to the land and our true lawful possession of it. So we'll get into that, because if any of you have any documents where you can look back and say, oh, I see, my great-grandmother or my grandmother, she owned this. And even when I go on to, the archives of even the fake cities, the corporate cities, we can see our ancestors listed there. What we have to do, we'll talk about what we have to do to make that right. because many of us have those documents, and also to properly proclaim that in our own sovereign status and standing without any corporate adhesion. We know how to do that now. And so we want to discuss that because each one of us, each and every one of us, need to be looking back now into our, even into the state corporate history. You don't have to spend a lot of time doing it. Just go to, we'll talk about how to do that. And many already have those documents in their possession. And we'll talk about how to do that, where it will be most efficient and that we're speaking with one voice where those documents are concerned. So right now, I want to yield the floor to Justice Malik from our Canaan Land Territory so that he can tell us more about where we are as a nation and as the government with regard to the stars and the retrogrades and et cetera, and the energy, because we know that this is an energetic, spiritual manifestation that is now manifesting in the flesh. And we use those spiritual guidelines to guide us. So Justice Malik, I believe I did see you come in. Peace
Islam,
and
everyone.
To you, and I yield the floor. Islam.
Peace and grand rising to the Moors. Islam, everyone. Peace, love. And all right, let's get into it. So October 13th, we have Mercury retrograde in Scorpio all the way to November 3rd. This is going to be in 11 degrees Scorpio and goes all the way back to 25 degrees Libra. And so probably wondering what are retrogrades for anyone new that's listening to this. Retrogrades are all about reassessing things and looking back on things. If you're wondering what Mercury is, Mercury stands for communication, logistics, speaking, talking, writing, things in that category. And during this time, things are going to be delayed. There's going to be a lot of miscommunications. You may not think as clearly. You will be feeling indecisive and less direct. This is a time to actually finish unfinished business and not starting new things, and basically realigning yourself and having balance. So with that being said, Scorpio. Scorpio is a sign of death, and in spirituality, death brings new life. So our old ways in relating to these areas sexually, mentally, emotionally need to come to an end. And the death of these things will actually give us a renewed sense of balance. And because Mercury is aspecting Uranus, the two planets together bring a ton of downloads and epiphanies. So this is the time to really see and feel with our third eye. Okay, we are in the midst of rare times, as we all know it, and this month is an intense and inspiring month. This is also an indication of blessings, right? So because of the sextile between Mercury and Venus, right? This gives us the motivation and opportunities. Mercury in Scorpio is going to be sextile in Venus in Virgo. This particular retrograde is a journey of love, right? A lot of this has to do with the Scorpio energy, and there will be a depth of transformation, a depth of understanding, understanding, and overstanding, and through this, we find our blessings. So just remember that, and it's a great time to preserve our sacred sexual energy so that we can go ahead and cultivate it, right? And with that being said, I yield the floor, and thanks for the floor, Empress Light.
Islam. Welcome. Thank you so much, Justice Malik. So when we look at the stars and the stars say certain things, it is interpreted by our star readers, and then we adjust our frequencies so that whatever it is that we have in mind to do, we can do it based on a higher frequency. So, for example, Justice Malik talked about, he said that it's not a good time to do certain things. That's what he said. It's not a good time to do certain things. Well, if those certain things are things that we need to do as a nation, then all that's really saying is be careful here, put a little more emphasis on a way to do this, a way to accomplish it that will make you stronger. Okay, so there are some times when the stars will say this is not a good time to contract. Well, we know that we're not contracting with the Service Corporation at all, ever. That's number one. And number two, contracting with each other is going to be the next order of business for our nations and governments. And so that is when that will come into play, where we'll say, okay, Mercury is going to be in retrograde, and so this is the time to go within so we can hear from the ancestors on how best to execute that contract between the Moorish nations, between the heirs, the nations that are the heirs. That's how that works. And so I'm always appreciative of hearing that so that we know which areas to strengthen and to make better and to study and all of that. So we need our star readers. Justice Malik, thank you so much for that, because we need to know those things. We need to know them so that we know which areas to do extra study in, to network with each other, and to come together on calls like this so that we can hear we may hear something on the calls, which I know you will, because all of the stuff that's coming is coming from all of the heirs. And so we know that the answers are within our nation and not outside of it. We are the only ones who know how to be sovereign, because we are sovereign and we're the only sovereign, which is, the original indigenous sovereign living heirs. So from that, we wanted to then there's a couple coming up on the, there you go. Okay. So from this point, what we wanted to talk about at this time is something that has been, we've been looking at it for many years, even in our sleep we looked at it. And now it's time for us to manifest the land. There are many heirs that are coming forward now, and whether it be they'll call, or they will go online, or manifest on social media, or wherever, that are bringing forth documents. And even though the documents are corporate documents, such as corporate census and a corporate, which we don't do any of that stuff, corporate census and deeds and land patents that were given to, that have the names of their grandparents on it. But of course we know our grandparents didn't have names, they have appellations. And we need to know how to go ahead and put it on the public record that the land is ours. Okay. I know in my family, not only do they currently have land, but even in the past, on my mother's side, they had hundreds of acres in Alabama territory, which ran all the way up near the other territories, Georgia and South Carolina, et cetera, many other territories, Tennessee, et cetera. And many of us, and I believe, and this is just a knowing that I have in my spirit, that every one of us, as the heirs, has some land that was given to our grandparents or great-grandparents, and it wasn't even given to them. It's been in our bloodline
Hey,
for generations. And because it was in there for generations, because it's been in our family, in our kinship lines for generations, it's only in probably the 16, 17, and 1800s that our ancestors, because they saw the system changing and they saw that the corporate was starting to do things, et cetera, that they even bothered to they wanted to protect the land. And so they did corporate documents, especially in sometime around 1913 and 1933, somewhere around there. But even before that, in the late 1800s, a lot of our ancestors started putting the land on the public record, in that corporate fashion, because remember, 1871, they were getting ready to do that whole corporate piece. So they were saying, if you want to keep land, you need to register this like they do today. You need to register this and you need to register that and blah, 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 blah. And, our ancestors, we were about to go to sleep. So they registered a lot of the land. So you can go back and look in the family, the kinship line, and see where every last one of us, I just know it. I just know it. I cannot prove that every last one of us had it, but I know every last one of us are the heirs, so that's proof enough for me. I know that. But again, I'm getting that knowing from heirs who are coming forward saying, I have these documents. I can even look back and see the deed to the land that was my grandfather's land, et cetera, et cetera. I had an heir to call me today from Missouri Territory and say that he has documents. We've heard from some of the other heirs, Ingrid Michelle, myself, many of the other heirs, many of you have land, even our brothers and sisters who are at the islands and other places have land that they had in their kinship lines for hundreds of years. And again, the land was in our kinship line for millions of years, but the only reason it looks like it just came into our land into our possession in the 1800s is because our ancestors were like, well, the corporate is here and they're saying if we want to keep this and make sure that it stays in the family, we have to register it. Well, that was the fraud that was going on. So now those who have those records, and you don't have to have those records, you don't have to have them. I'm sure if you do a little research, you're going to find some, though. If you look where your mother was born, and again, our mothers are sovereign. So they were always at Morocco, ancient. They were born on ancient land. All of us were. And so if you look back through those documents, you will find something. If you even know your grandmother's, the corporate name that they were using to fraudulently take her estate or fraudulently claim it, rather, because they didn't take it, it's still here. The land hasn't gone anywhere, and neither have we. So if you look back into those records, you will find, I'm sure, some land somewhere. And most of us can pinpoint exactly where it is, and the majority of it came through our mothers, but in some cases it did come through the father, and that's, as long as we're Moors, Moors are Moors, except that those who have Moorish matriarchs or Moorish mothers are the heirs. And we know that already. That's not anything new or revealing. a known fact. Everyone knows that. So if you have those documents, this is what, and before I go into what to do, are there any Moors on this call who have documents like that aside from myself? And you can star 6 if you're muted, because if you're talking, we can't hear you right now. So you need to hit star 6 on your phone, and we'll be able to hear you. I'll wait just a little while.
It's Islam, Valerie Price today, New York City territory. I don't have documents, but my grandfather and grandmom in Alabama have land. They transition on, but my aunts have the land, and my mom transitioned. So I'm the oldest in my family. So I'm part and partial of that land there, but I don't have documents.
You actually do have documents if there was any type of a transfer made, because the transfers that they were claiming were corporate transfers. And so, Empress, if you know where your grandmother lived, then you can look back at the county records there, the county land records, and see if you can find something. But again, Empress, remember, we're all the heirs to all land and all natural resources and all commerce, you know.
Yes.
So, but for this particular demonstration, because we're doing so many demonstrations on so many different levels, it's just, I love it. But for this particular demonstration, where proper claiming of the land is concerned, we're going to be using. If you have any corporate documents, and we'll tell you how to make, because they're all fraud. All the corporate documents are fraud anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you have them or not, but if you have them, we know how to make them not fraud. In other words, they're fraud and they're always going to be fraud, but what we do is originate documents that are allodial and sovereign. And when we rebut every document that they put out there, and we know what that list of documents is. When we properly rebut it with a Moorish government document, which all Moors are the government, and you should all be using Moorish government letterhead to do your demonstration. When we rebut that way, each one of the documents that they put out there, we need to rebut it with a sovereign affidavit on government letterhead. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute. So, Empress, if you even heard that your grandmother had land, then it would be incumbent upon you to dig just a little deeper. And I'm telling you this, when you start seeking the ancestors, we'll put that information out there in front of you. They will show you. They will make the information pop up, just like they've been doing for everything else that we endeavor to do. If you know your grandmother's name, just start there.
Yes,
and go through, just start going through any information that you have about her. Just start going through, Googling, and, to other websites and things, county records, county clerk records, public land records, etc. Any place that you can find any information. Just start looking, and the rabbit holes will appear for you to go down those rabbit holes and find what you need to find. Even if it's just one document with one proof. Islam, Justice Yajiril Perez Bay says in the chat, this is reversion of a state. Absolutely it is. 100%. That's exactly where we're going with all of this. The estate needs to be returned to the heirs, but the heirs are the only ones who can do it. The Albions can't even do it. Even if they gave you a document saying, okay, all the land is yours, they can't do it because it's not their land to give you. And that's what this call is about. We have to do that. And we know just how to do it. In red, in all lowercase letters, on government letterhead, you, each one, each heir. can recreate. So if they have a deed, we have to be competent to know that we create title. And the title will rebut the deed. And if you have the deed, we don't throw those documents away. We actually look at them and then create the rebuttal. Okay? And then when we create the rebuttal to those documents on government letterhead, in all lowercase letters in red, it's not going to look like what they did. It's going to look exactly like sovereign, original, indigenous documents. Our Grand Sheik talked about this last Friday, he talked about aboriginal title. Aboriginal, that word, when you put aboriginal on your documents, separate those two terms. Ab separated from the word original means of the original or from the original. And so he mentioned aboriginal title, which is correct also. Aboriginal, of or from the original. So when you create the sovereign allodial title, you can say original or you can say aboriginal. When you put them together, that creates a new word, aboriginal. And generally, if you do the etymology on the word aboriginal, it means they change it to the Spanish ab, which means not original, like abnormal means not normal, supposedly. But we're the Phoenicians, so they don't tell us what the words mean. But because we're competent, we know that if you just put a space between ab and original, then it is from. It will correct it. It will make it. It will elevate that term. Okay. So any of the documents. So, for example, also if they have things where they're supposed to be land land patents. I've seen Moors do land patent documents, etc., but they never did them. They were using they were amalgamating the documents. The documents are not to be amalgamated. They're not to be amalgamated. So do not mix the documents together. What we're doing is originating a whole new sovereign document. And a lot of times Islam, Justice Amos, in the chat, he's showing how you can do that. And then, Justice Gilmore, do you want to say a little bit about what you put in the chat? Because that's absolutely true. What he put in the chat was, go ahead, Justice Gilmore. What he put in the chat was compound words have a different denigration. Yes, go ahead, Justice. I knew it was taking a minute. I know it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was speaking, but I had my
Of course, I knew that.
So,
Islam.
Islam.
Oh, that's our Justice Gilmore. Islam.
What I was pointing out was that just as you were explaining, the reason for separating these words is because they're what we call compound. And again, not taking my word or anybody else's word for it, go back and study proper sentence structure, and you will see that whenever a word is joined to another word, it changes the meaning of both words to something completely different. For example, we were taught to forget and to forgive, and many other words you can think about. And those are all compound words. When you change them into their proper words and you then look at them, you see that the meanings don't even have anything at all like what the compound word gives. But by doing it that way, because it sounds as if it's supposed to, you forget something, okay, that it they tell you that means you don't remember. But that's not true. forgetting has nothing to do with memory. It has to do with giving something forward.
Yes.
And getting something from forward, pulling it back to you. So you forget, pull back, and now you pull that in. Yeah. Proper sentence structure, the reason we were doing those early on is because when they started the dummification process called education, they were not really aware that the sentence structure was that important. At least the people who were teaching it, because they had to be taught how to bedazzle us. And so that took a little time. But every Moor knows when you hear something said and you see it's a compound word, the first thing you're supposed to do is start dissecting it. Not try to make sense of it, dissect it, because you already know what they want it to mean, but you can fix it so it means what you know it's supposed to mean. That is the difference between connotative and denotative. Islam.
And I'm seeing in the chat, Empress Brianna is changing. This is why we've been changing the spelling of the corporate words that they put out there. That education system it's animal language, and we're not animals. So when you change the spelling of the word and you give it your own sovereign meaning, then it means what you intend for it to mean. Then you start getting back into our honorable brothers and sisters of other nations, such as the Gullah Geechee people and the Gullah Geechee nation. They are sovereign original indigenous Moors. And they spell things and say things completely differently from the corruption that the fake education system use. And so that is how they've been able to keep the land in sovereign hands all this time. And we didn't know that when the ancestors first started telling us to come out of corporate English, where capital letters are concerned, etc. The ancestors had begun dealing with us last year on that. And then just recently it was affirmed that that is actually one of our ancient languages. If you look at the Gullah Geechee people, they kept the language that their ancestors for hundreds and hundreds of years spoke. And therefore, because they had their own language, they were able to keep the land in their possession. Where even the fake corporates were saying that's heir land, that's not something we can violate. Until recently, they've begun using capitalism and threat, duress, and coercion to attempt to take the land of the Gullah Geechee people, and we're going to be there for them too, also, as we would be for each other all the time. They are us, we are them, and that's another reason for this call too, is again to bring all of the lands back together. I've never even bothered to look to see the hundreds of acres that my mother's mother and her family, her kin had in Alabama territory. Hundreds and hundreds of acres, but I just assumed it was gone. Because in my sleep, I did not know that it is never gone. It's never gone. It's always ours. And what we're doing now is bringing it back and putting it on the public record that we know it's ours. Okay, now that we are standing as government, and again, we've always stood as government. We've never not been government. Never not been. But it is incumbent upon us as the government and as the law to put the law where the land is concerned on the public record. We have to rebut, and see, all law is specific. So we have to rebut everything that they say about the land. And then we're even rebutting the names that they put on those fake deeds and land patents, etc. They put names on there and said, this is the grandmother right here, and this is her name. Well, our grandparents did not have names. They were sovereign, just like we don't have names. So I saw some other things in the chat with regard to a specific type of trust. You can put it in as long as it's in a sovereign allodial trust in all lowercase letters in red on government letterhead, it's a good trust. And also know that not only does the Moorish National Republic federal government, the people who are the Moorish National Republic federal government, the de jure one, no fakeness and no 501c3s, because we're leaning all of them too. Can't be one of them and lean them at the same time. And that's why we're so bold with the lean process, because we're not a corporation, and those who are corporations are not wanting us to do that. But it's too bad. We're not using capital letters and things like that in order to continue to have the land taken, because all of us have heirs that are heirs to the land too, and we're not going to have our heirs starving and doing without when they don't have to, standing on their own land. And so there was something put in the chat about a trust. All land is already in the trust of the people who are the sovereign, original, indigenous Moorish National Republic federal government, the Moorish American Consulate, and all Moorish nations. All Moorish nations that stand already have a living trust. We are the trust. We're it. We're the trust. We're the bank. We're the court. We're the law. We're the government.
Islam.
And all we do is put that on the public record. Islam, Justice.
Islam.
Islam.
What Moors should know is go back and, again, study some of the more recent writings, if you will, from the Empress Verdiaci and the book that she personally wrote, Return of the Ancient Ones. And then get Brother Asaru Alim Bey's book, First World Order. And you will see information that he put further information in it, you know, because he talks about it, she talks about the Spanish land grants. And when we hear about Spanish land grants, we think, oh, what were those Spanish doing with our land or whatever? Well, it's called Spanish land grants because that was what we spoke. We've been the Spanish. There is no other one that's any real Spanish. We are the Spanish. We've always been that. In fact, when you hear about the Spanish-American Wars, we are the Spanish, and the fake people coming from Albion are the calling themselves Americans because they were co-opting our information. When you hear the Mexican-American Wars, we are the Mexicans. It's the same fakes who are calling themselves Americans. Remember the Alamo. It was us, the Mexicans, fighting to stop these wild people from taking our lands and taking over the whole place. This land at one time, North America ran all the way to the Caribbean Sea and all the way down to where you call the Panama Canal. Before the Panama Canal, there was a canal in Nicaragua that was just like a few miles, had been covered up and closed up, but that's where ships used to pass. We had two canals, the Nicaragua and the Panama Canal, that joined the Atlantic and the Pacific. But all of that stuff is in stories, and why Noble Drew Ali said we should speak a second language, and that language should be Spanish, is because all our records are in the Spanish language, hidden all over the Americas. So if we want to information and know ourselves, all we got to do is kind of pay a little bit of attention to what Noble Drew Ali is saying in the Circle 7 Quran, and in the prophecies and hadiths, and in the questionnaire, and when we see those things, try them out. They work. Islam. Oh, Islam. I did want to add one thing to that. To this very day, when we travel to certain parts of Mexico and Belize and Guatemala, the family line is well known everywhere. Because back in the 1800s, after the mud floods and stuff happened, there's really the only time when we had just waterways we used to use then for travel. And at that time, we set up a different structure where the families that were on those areas, they controlled the main passages across those rivers. And we have to this day, if we go and visit certain areas, you know, everybody knows who we are except ourselves. We walk in there and people are saying all kinds of good things and smiling and waving and greeting and welcoming me, and say, when the hell was I here? But that's the kind of stuff that goes on. And we just have to go search our own records, which are our Akashic records, and then you can find where your stuff is in Spanish. Islam.
Islam. Justice Giamour, the second book you mentioned, is it the First World Order?
First World Order.
Okay, thank you.
It's by Asru Alim Bey. It's I think he sells them now for like $75 or something. You can buy them direct from him as opposed to going online to buy them at Amazon. But you might be able to find them on Amazon, and just check with him. See if his pricing, because it would be better to buy it direct from him if you could. They're in North Carolina.
Could you put his information in the chat?
No,
I'm
but you can go online and find it. There's an easy way to get it. Go on Facebook and just type in
Facebook, motherfuckers.
You can just Google his name. It'll come up.
Type in Asru Alim El Bey, and you can pull up all his information.
Could you spell that
I'll
for
put
me?
it in the chat, Justice.
Okay,
I'll put it in the chat because I have the book right here in my hands.
There you go. All right.
Yeah,
wow.
one of the Moors who came this weekend brought a copy for me, which I thought was just amazing. I was just shocked because I've never seen the book before. But I'll put it in there. It's called The First. Let me put it in the chat right now. And there, just a second. Make sure that I put the first.
It even has all the treaties and the actually a copy of the land grants and all of that stuff in there, and about the Empress taking back, winning in the corporate structured courts all of the so-called Louisiana Purchase back, which involved several million square miles and a large area, very large area. But again, we have to be willing to look. Islam.
And one thing even about this, again, they've always known that the land belongs to the heirs. They've always known that. And the thing about that too, again, these, you know, Empress Verdiachi had documents just like you all have documents. You see what I'm saying? And so all of that works together. All of it works together. All of us have documents of some kind. And again, even those who don't have documents, because at the end of the day, those are corporate documents. We have the final say. All of the heirs have the final say. And that's what we're doing now, is decapitalizing the corporate documents and putting them on the public record. This is what I see on the front of this book. It says...
Islam, Empress Light?
Yes.
Islam? I wanted to add a little bit of information, too, about the First World Order. For all the people who are interested in knowing some of the science, it's all in there. About breathing, about opening, about the chakras, about developing mind, and all the other things to go with that. When I started looking at this book, I said, dang, how the heck did he know these? Because I knew them, but who told him? You know? But it's all in the book. Some of the stuff is still talking, you know, using the old, what you'd call the old liars research, which was no research really, and whenever you find information that talks about the round Earth and the spinning Earth and all of that, it's a lie. There is no part of that that's true. So if one can pay attention, they can fix that really quick and get their minds lined up with how they work. Islam. And now I will shut up.
Islam. Islam. So I put it in the chat, in capitis diminution, no. And so what we want to do is start pulling some of that up and properly rebutting it on the public record in terms of any corporate documents such as fake deeds and fake land titles and fake this and fake that, fake any claims by the corporate, any claims in all capital letters. Empress Brianna, did you want to just repeat what you put in the chat so that those who are on by phone can hear? And you can star 6, Empress.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying that my family also, or kinfolk from Alabama, and on my mom and dad's side, they have hundreds and hundreds of acres there. They also have the documents. We also have family members that live on the land currently. And on my dad's side, they have actually been farming on the land for years. So, but we have all of the documents. So that is something that I was wanting to know more about. So to be learning that today, or hearing that today, sorry, not learning, that's perfect for me.
Yes, Islam. Empress, what if we find out we're related? Because that's where my
mother. Everybody keeps saying Alabama territory. We need to find out.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And I would venture to say that we are, because if we had hundreds of acres and you all had hundreds of acres and other Moors had hundreds of acres and those hundreds of acres had to be connected, that means that we were related. You see?
Great.
You know, so it's just... yes, I love it. I absolutely love it.
And that's where my parents and their parents are from, Alabama.
I'm getting chills because I already know. Yes, yes. I'm getting chills because I already know. We're about to find some stuff out. Hey, cousins. Colonial sovereign cousins.
Yeah.
Islam.
Islam. All right, I see some more in the chat. someone else saying that their grandfather's family is from there too. We're all related. Here we go. Come on, Alabama territory.
All kids.
Go ahead, Justice.
Now that's what I was saying. Even if you look at the history, you know, the L's and the Bays and the Days, they're cut like it's that type of relationship set up between the Moors across the whole empire.
Yes.
Islam.
Yes. Islam. That's beautiful because we get to know each other now through all that, and it comes through the demonstrations. It's coming through the demonstrations. The Moorish, getting to know who we are and doing our Moorish nationality demonstrations, we're finding out that we really are all that we said we were and all that we knew we were. You know, and then, yes, Empress Shade, you want to say a little bit about what you put in the chat, because that's important. I was just about to go there. I was just about to say something about that, Empress Shade.
Islam. Yeah, you know, just doing my research a while ago, when we were looking at, you know, the quote-unquote Native Americans, they were talking about how a lot of them were coming from the south up north. Of course, they said Native Americans in the books that I read, but, you know, they're talking about us. But they were coming from the south to the north, and most were from Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana. And, you know, a lot of them followed the Mississippi River coming up north because, of course, most tried to stay around bodies of water. That's, you know, how we generally lived, is to stay around, you know, bodies of water and where we can eat and drink and bathe and so forth like that, and just follow the rivers to different areas. So I remember hearing that, you know, I have many kids all over in the South, whether it's Mississippi, Louisiana, Alabama, or on the borders of those states. So I'm not surprised to see so many people say that. Every time I speak to someone in the Illinois territory, they always say how their family came from either Mississippi, Alabama, or Louisiana.
Yes.
North. I yield.
Yes. I hear that a lot, and I just have a really good feeling that we're about to find all the connections are being made right now. All of them. And so even when I was doing the research to assist another empress, it was, you know, I found out that, and I need to be doing my own research, you know, it's good to assist others, but you have to do your own too. And I found out that the same people, the same colonizers who documented and did business as governors and whatever in South Carolina territory, their son came to Alabama and did the same thing. He became the documenter of the fraudulent, you know, they just sent colonizers all over, and all they did was go and start capitalizing records. They saw our records and they started capitalizing them. They would go into the territory and talk with us and write down what they heard, and they would go capitalize what they heard. And so that's why some of us are still thinking we don't have land records, but we do. We do.
Islam. I wanted to say I also have kin in Barbados. I would really love to go there to find more information on them. I heard a lot of stories about my grandmother on that side, so that's where I want to go.
Yes. Because some of those places still have. They are currently holding allodial documents from the 17 and 1800s at some of the island territories. Just like here on this landmass, there are some who are currently in possession of allodial sovereign land.
The things that I heard about my grandmother, I don't think she ever went to sleep, if that makes sense.
Yes, it does.
Seriously, yeah.
Yes.
That's us too.
Go ahead, Justice Apollo.
Oh, I didn't realize that. My bad. I have some other questions. Y'all go ahead.
Okay. What I was going to say is that, you know, there are many who did not go to sleep. I was thinking that everyone went to sleep, but that's not true. Some stayed awake. Yes, Justice Lewis Anthony May L., do you want to discuss that? Because I was actually going to go there too, in terms of where they kept a allodial sovereign record. It was not something that we put on one record, you know, one centralized place like we do now. The public record is centralized in that it's everywhere that the public can look and not need a secret password to get to it. So, for example, if you go onto Facebook, you don't need a secret password to get to those records, because a lot of that is called the public record. When you go to Moorish American Council Public Records, you can see all the public records without needing a password to get into that site. And you can put public records there. The heirs can. You know. But Justice Lewis Anthony May L. says in the chat, a lot of records were held in the back of those old Bibles, which is true. Or either grandma had it and she kept it in a plastic bag, you know, in the mattress or someplace like that, you know. And they had those records signed in all lowercase letters most of the time. Because when I go to Alabama territory, there is a graveyard that was a family graveyard. It was a kinship graveyard. And when I went with my mother, when I was probably 20 years old, all of the gravestones were in all lowercase letters. And the gravestones had, for example, one of my aunts was, and I'll just say her name. Her sovereign appellation was M.E. Lassick, Lassic. Well, her gravestone had on it the letter M, no period, just a space, the letter E, no period, just a space, and then Lassick, Lassic. And it was in all lowercase letters, so all I was thinking was, you know, when I saw it, I thought, oh, they must not have gone to school. They must have been too poor to go to school. Because that's what the colonization had us thinking. But then, so I asked my mom, I said, Mom, well, what does the M and the E stand for? And she said, nothing. She said, that's just what they called her, Emmy Lassick. I was like, oh, okay. But that's why there were no periods. Because we really did not have names. We had sovereign appellations, and they probably would have been too long to put on a gravestone anyway. But it's just amazing that our history is now, or her story is now coming together in that manner. And it had everything to do with all lowercase letters and those documents not being able to be put into the corporate system. So some of our ancestors knew not to put the documents in the corporate system, just keep possession of them and pass them down. And some of them didn't get passed down, and others got passed down, but the rest of us didn't know that they were passed down, you know. And thankfully, it doesn't matter whether you received the records in your hand or not. We know how to look and create a allodial title. We know how to create sovereign documents. We know how to create everything from its origin, because that which starts in truth stays in truth. And that's why you cannot amalgamate the documents.
Islam.
You don't? Islam. Go ahead, Justice.
Yeah, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I had wanted to ask you specifically, Empress, how your demonstrations have been going recently, because just listening to, House of Reawakening Minds and Taj and Shem and Abdullah, they seem to be frustrated with like a lack of unity or a lack of structure in what we're doing. And it kind of made me think about like what it is that is ideal in terms of like some sort of cooperative structure, because I was looking also on the grid, and for some of those original documents that that you guys had put out, you guys had like a lot of signatures behind some of the affidavits that were like reclaiming the rare earth minerals. And it made me think about also how in Article 3 of the Constitution is
Great Rising, motherfuckers.
It made me think about how in Article 3 it specifically says, or just throughout the Constitution, that the grand jury belongs to the people, who, and we know that that's us, and how certain cases are going to have original jurisdiction that goes to Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction, and the common law grand juries is basically a body of Moors, and it also talks about that in the treaty. And I kind of wanted to wonder, like, if we really need a structure that bad that includes other, people, couldn't we literally like make up our own entities to serve on boards of trust and sign for them?
We're already doing that.
Not technically.
What is Moorish American Consular Court? What is that? And I'll go right on back to Grand Sheik and how he talks about the consular venue is where all of that happens. And so if you're doing Moorish American Consular Court actions, then you started at the right place and you're already enjoined and unified with the nation.
Okay.
I know it doesn't look like what we've been programmed to think. The body politics is already formed. Remember, we're ancient. Okay. And
so
the more active you
be, needed, is there any like sort of correspondence that's needed on behalf of like getting, I'm not really sure, like getting more signatures or showing some sort of like delegation of authority that's like specifically this person is the grand treasurer, this person is the postmaster general, like I don't know. I was just looking at the format that you guys had set up on the consulate for those affidavits, which were very powerful to look at, all the signatures that you guys had of so many Moors. And, each one had their stamp and seal for their not even authorization, but their seal of that affidavit, that statement of truth and commerce. And what I was saying was, like, there are some people who are inclined to believe that due to scholarship put out, I guess, by the prophet, that there's a certain structure that comes along from being in a religious corporation. I'm assuming that's why, like, for example, the Temple of the Moon and Sun, you have they have your signature on that, on the consulate grid. So what I was saying was, like, just how, like, children make up imaginary friends. If, like, we wanted to start our own religious corporation, but we don't have Moors who are maybe conscious, who don't overstand certain things, if we could like come up with our own different names of entities to be a part of our religious corporation and then sign for them.
Islam?
No one represents the Moors. That's the thing. No one represents the Moors, so we're not representing anyone. In fact, we're just presenting ourselves. So we don't have to make up anything. There's enough of us who are active. Just a moment, Justice Jeremiah. There are enough of us who are active, who are actively doing things, and who are actively connected and speaking with one voice. See, that's the thing. Us speaking with one voice is, if you were able to see a conglomeration of the entire public record together, you would see what I'm talking about. The public record right now, from some perspectives, from most perspectives, no one has ever looked at that public record in total. When you look at the public record in total, which none of us have seen it in total, but I know what it looks like because I know how many Moors have been active, and I know what Moors have been doing. And so if you look at it in total, you will see that we are still governing as one. We're still one. It may not feel like it, but we are. And all we have to do, again, that's why the prophet talked about active Moors. Now, with regard to structures, government structures, it's funny because Grand Sheik and I were just talking about this yesterday on the phone. We're going to be doing some videos over the next few days and weeks. The scriptum, which just means the writing, is already put together for the most part. I just have to get it in front of the eyes of the judiciary so that they can review it and just, make sure that it is what we want to say. But we're going to be putting that piece where all of us coming together is concerned. And if you Justice Jermore can vouch for what I'm saying, we were just talking about reaching out to the other nations, in specific the Gullah Geechee Nation, doing a video where we connect with them and other nations as well, and bring us all together in the manner that you're speaking of, and in the manner that Justice Abdullah is speaking of. And Justice Abdullah, I actually owe him a phone call. So that's going to be part of our conversation. We've had that conversation in the past, and we're going to continue to have that conversation because as we continue to mold and manifest as government and as nations, we have to have, those are continuous talks and continuous ways. And all we're talking about is the best way to manifest our unity and the best way to manifest our sovereign status, etc. That's all. That's what we're talking about right now, is bringing all of that together. So it's coming together. I'm glad you said what you said, Justice Apollo, about government structure. It's coming together, even with regard to the Postmaster General piece. Now, there were some things we needed to put on the public record first before we make the announcements that we're going to be making. We first needed to put on the public record that all Moors are the Postmaster General before we go and say, we are the Postmaster General and we actually have a post office right here. This is the first Moorish American post office, and that video will be going out shortly as well. We have to do that, and then other Moors are going to have to do the same thing.
Islam. So what do you think? What do you think in general? Just trying to understand the principles that the prophet meant when he said that there's going to come a day where the Moors who are in the temple are going to be sat down, and the new Moors are going to go to the front and carry out his law.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing, of course, but if you can remember it. Mm-hmm.
Islam.
Yeah. I remember what you're saying. Go ahead, Justice Jermore.
When the prophet is talking about new Moors will come in and put the old Moors in the back, it is literally not so much talking about the physical part of it, because what happens is, just like you're asking about structure and, structure, you're looking for continuity, for physical growth and all that stuff. Well, we tend to keep thinking that we are working in a physical environment, and we really are not. We're imagining that we're working in a physical environment. We're actually in a metaphysical or above material environment, working down into it, and everything we do here is like we're playing a part. You're playing a part in everything you do, and you're playing 1,000 parts in everything, and you're playing all the parts in everything. What we have to remember is the structure we're looking for is to wake ourselves up to the fact that we are not bound by anything we've been told we're bound by. We are bound by how we think. And we have to get out of the growth of the Moors happens every time a Moor breaks that physical barrier that they think is holding them back and start working the mind, because then things start happening for them. But they can't pass that on to another Moor. The other Moor must get it and use it, and then it comes on to them. And the more we do that, that is where the growth happens. And that's where we hear in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, when the trump sounds, and the dead in Christ, those who are not Christed, or the ones who have not got to that level where they can understand, not have to understand, that happens in a moment. You get one word sometimes and boom, that's the flip. Sometimes you don't even get a word. A memory flashes and you flip and you go there. But the more we concentrate on the physical, the less we see what's happening with us. But as soon as we start paying attention to the above, seek ye first the kingdom of the heavens and its righteousness, the more we pay attention to that, the more we see that we've had a dramatic change just since last week, and a huge dramatic change since a month ago. But if we're not paying attention to it, we don't see it until something happens and we trip over something that we didn't see was there, and then, whoa, where did that come from? It's always been there, but we weren't seeing it, and we managed to escape from it. So, if we stop looking for the physical thing to happen first, get the mind working first, then that physical thing is going to follow. It has to follow what the mind is doing. The mind will not follow the physical ever. Not ever. Because that's heading the wrong way. And mind is not that dumb.
Islam, that's more science, and that's common sense right there. And jurisprudence.
Islam.
Also.
So it is.
Yes. You mentioned old Moors in the back. Now, first, let us say right now that our old Moors are not going anywhere. We love them, and they can't go anywhere. We're not going to let them. We love them too much. We need their wisdom. It's just that the ancestors are giving us pieces, and the ancestors have given them pieces. And so the back does not mean out of the room. The back means back there. It means in the back, so we can come back there and chat with you for a minute and then run back up to the front and keep doing what we're doing with the nation building and all of that. So as far as government structure is concerned, the government structure is already together. It's ancient. It does not look like what you are accustomed to seeing. However, at some point, it will look more like what it should be as we all continue to do what we're doing in terms of waking up and all of that. But just keep your eyes open and please keep studying and demonstrating, and I don't have to tell you all that. You all already know about that. And over the next few weeks and months, there will be more manifestations. There have been many so far. And there will be more manifestations of our government structure being exactly what it should be. Okay? So, Islam.
This is this is Timothy Hachan Bay, Virginia Territory. So what you're really saying is we're conforming the republic form of government. I think this is what is going on. And we're coming out of that democracy concept,
That's one way to put it. Yes, go ahead, Justice.
No, go ahead. I just wanted to put that in a perspective, because I think that's where I have struggled a lot. But I have to remember that I grew up on democracy, right? But now the grand rise is a republic form. So I got to know it's a different way of doing it in terms of individually instead of waiting for the group to happen, right?
Correct in a way, but the group is doing it when we're all active. It is the group. It just feels like it's just you doing it.
Right.
You know,
exactly.
you feel like you're the only one doing it, but you're not.
Right.
Because we're
you
all
feel
doing
alone
it.
by yourself.
Sometimes I did for the first year. The ancestors had me sequestered where there were no other Moors around me, so I could not. But that was by design, so that I wouldn't lean on anybody else and expect them to save me. I had to do it.
Correct. And that is republic form, right? That's okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And then when we're all able to do that for ourselves, then we can assist others. That's why the prophet said what he said about take everything you know that can save the whole nation and save yourself. And then through that, we're able to stand sovereign. And whether it's just one of us in the territory or many, we can still govern and not be violated. Islam, yes. Now, here's the thing. That's a beautiful statement there in response to Justice Apollo, because this is the thing we need to know even about that republic in all lowercase letters, because that's different from the republic in all uppercase letters. But the republic in all lowercase letters means that the sovereign Moors are in their proper place governing over the republic as the republic is doing what it's doing.
All right.
We're not in the republic. We are sovereign above it.
Islam.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So the republic needs oversight. The republic is beholden to the Moors. Come on now. That's what we have to know, and that's why it's important for us to do what we're doing now. We've already escaped that whole capitalism system. You know, we're done with that, and all we're doing is going back in history while we move forward. That's all we're doing, and only we can do that. We're rolling back all of that corporate fake mess. And now we're into whatever part on the timeline that you're demonstrating at is where you are. But we're all moving on the same timeline. We're just at different points on that timeline. And that's okay. It's okay to be that. That is the grand rising. That's what it looks like.
That's what it is.
Islam.
Thank you, sis. How are you?
Islam.
Islam, Justice Walter.
Yeah, I was just thinking, it said that democracy was never a part of the original Constitution. So a lot of times when people...
Go ahead, Justice.
So I'm thinking if it was never a part of the original Constitution, though the government was never a real government. So a lot of times people look at democracy as a true government. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Yeah, that's, again, when they capitalized everything, they changed the meanings of it. We did things democratically as nations and governments where the people rule. Because we are the people. That's why we say we are the law and we are the government. But that's democratically done in all lowercase letters, and it's not put forward as the governing platform. It's not that. It's how we did things. But we're also theocratic. So we're not just one-dimensional there.
Islam?
You know. Islam.
Islam, I just want to point something out about, remember early on we were talking about compound words? If you check democracy, it's a compound word. What it is hiding is what they actually are saying, because it is a democracy. Now, democracy means lower gods working with each other. So they present it as democracy, and it hides what's going on, which is mob rule. The lesser gods, the demons, are running a mob. And they rule it until they die. Look at the people in the. If you look at the Senate and these people, you'll be shocked to see how many of them are 80 plus, and how many of them they go in there as 20 somethings or 30 somethings, and when they leave there, it's because they croak. That's your democracy at work. And the republic is a different, which again, republic is returning to the public. It is returning to that thing where we, the people, run the show. That is good government, good control of your mind, When you have good control of your mind, everybody else has good control from your point of view. Doesn't matter what they do.
Pillsbury Grand Rising, motherfuckers.
Go ahead, Justice Sherman. Sorry about
Islam. I yield.
Yes, Islam. I don't like to lock the meeting because, look, the numbers are of Moors who are trying to get in. I'm getting text messages and everything, and they're trying to get in, so I'm not going to lock it. But absolutely. So, with regard to the government structure is coming together. It's already together, but it's coming together even more so that those who cannot see it yet will be able to see it, and they will see it as they work on it. We can only see that which we manifest. Okay. And so that is happening
what the fuck's
now.
Up, Pauline?
You know, so that's what's happening now. And we're going to keep moving in that direction. Okay. So that's another reason why our courts are so important. Because believe it or not, it's through our courts that the land is being returned, because how can I return something to you if I never had it, where the corporates are concerned? The corporates never had the land, never owned it, they never even really possessed it, because we still have possession of allodial title, and aboriginal title, and sovereign title, and original title. So they say possession is 9/10 of the law. We still have that. It never was not ours. And now it's manifesting that we know how to correct even the public record. We can correct it with our sovereign original indigenous documents on government letterhead in red in all lowercase letters. And when we do it that way, we can even put the fake documents side by side, just like on the back of the dollar bill. They put the pyramid beside their seal. If we put the sovereign original indigenous documents that we create as proper rebuttal, we're not amalgamating the documents. So in our documents, we don't even have to make mention of their fake documents. We don't have to. We can just say, this is the title. We know how to denote, or yes, we know how to denote or note title. We know how to note the location, the mailing location. We know how to do all of that. We even know how to do universal natural area codes of the land and the property. And then we know how to state the total of our estate. So like when we put the document that Justice Apollo referred to with regard to all the rare earth minerals, and that all Moors, that belongs to all Moors, and that's all Moors whether sleeping or awake. All rare earth minerals and land belongs to the Moors. When we put that document on the public record, even then we did not know about all lowercase letters, but someone knew about all lowercase letters. They just didn't tell us in those, no one told us. We had to actually hear that straight from the ancestors and through our research. That's how everything else is going to come to fruition as well. But again, these calls and us coming together knowing that we already possess the land, now we know how to articulate that. Now we know how to make it law from our own hand. It's always been the law, but it's up to the competent heirs to prove that we're competent to govern. And we have to know how to do that. Being competent to govern, it means just that. Are there any other questions or comments about the land and about any documents that you may have where you see that land goes back in your family and you want to know how to express that?
Islam?
Islam. Go ahead, Empress. Empress, are you speaking? I don't think we can hear you.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. I don't know what happened. I must have pressed mute again. I just wanted to say I'm glad you brought that back up about the records as far as the land goes, because of the fact that I don't know. I've heard so far that maybe I don't know if it's going to be in the next few days, the next few weeks. As far as the internet goes, they're going to be doing an internet reset. So people will want to, whatever you want to Google or go save on there, just in case they do. We don't quite know if they're going to do it or not, but they do plan on doing that based on all the old systems going away and getting ready for the new systems in place, which is the quantum systems that, like the quantum financial system and different things that they plan on putting in place. So
we're actually doing that.
Oh, so therefore, if we are doing anything that people will want to get off of there or go check out, this would be the time, just in case, it takes a little bit longer for things to get back in order on the internet. I yield to the noble that was speaking.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to know what exactly is quantum science.
Okay.
I've seen the term before, and I think it's related to the rare earth minerals affidavit, or the principle of reishi, or the energy. So could you explain what that is in terms of quantum? I think it was banking or finance.
Empress, you want to take that?
I'm sorry, I had it on mute. It's for some reason the mute button is not working correctly. Well, with the quantum financial system, and I believe Light touched on this a little bit earlier, that was, because of the numbers that they're going to be working with due to the heirs, and it's going to be, I guess so big in this as far as the system. We would need a quantum system for us to be working with, because we're going to be doing more of peer-to-peer. We've always been the bank. The people have always been the bank, even if they didn't know it, but now they're going to know it. And we're going to be doing more of peer-to-peer banking because the old system is going away. So when you're looking at, like I said, the numbers that we're dealing with, it is so big that they will have to do some type of quantum system. People may notice a lot of the banks that are in their, wherever they're located, may have either went away or has even went down to maybe like 2 days a week they're open, or they're starting to close sooner. That's why we were telling people a while ago, hey, go, get whatever as far as the fiat and exchanging it for the gold and silver, because we do know that that system is going to be wiped out as well. But they have been trying to put these new systems in place, and I guess going through their teaching of whoever is going to be doing whatever. So, I don't know if it's going to be the old banks that they're teaching or some of the new, because I do know the, what's that called, the credit unions are still in place. So I don't know if it's going to be more of those types of situations, because with the Republic, we're going to be doing more having some type of credit union or something in place. I don't know. But the only thing that I do know is that old system is going, and they've been teaching all the people now to get ready for the new system, but by the end of this year, everything is supposed to be really official moving on forward to next year. But one of the key things that they want to do now is reset the internet, because they said, long story short, it's just a lot of bad things and a lot of bad softwares and everything that's been kind of holding us back, slowing us down, and so forth. And they're removing that and putting a new system in place. So a lot of stuff is going to be wiped out. It may be Facebook. They already talked about the social medias going away. So you may want to look into that, where you have all your public Islam.
Hold on a minute, Justice Dearmore. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Yeah, hold on. Empress, today I'm going to mute you. Yeah, just a moment. Just a moment, Empress. Islam. Go ahead, Justice Dearmore.
Islam. People, when you're hearing about this so-called quantum system that is being brought in, no, what is happening? There is no new system coming in. It is the system that has always been there is going to come back online. And all the other systems that were the overlays, that were the cutouts, that were conduits to certain things, those are going away. And the people who are getting up on these things and talking about what they're doing and how they'll do those things, for one thing, if they're telling you a bunch of new quantum systems, they're talking about very backward systems compared to the systems we had prior to 1812, operational. It is only after 1812 that we started to, when a bunch of the place got stuck under hundreds of feet of mud, let me say maybe thousands of feet of mud, it's only then that we really went into a quarantine. And the systems were pulled away because there was nothing to work them with. And so some Moors who have been, quote unquote, off the scene have been working on those things for the last couple hundred years. And that's the kind of stuff that you're going to see coming back online. And again, when we bring things on, we don't bring them in slowly and this thing and you shut this down and get that to work. It comes in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye. It's working the right way because it's working mind to mind. And those little link-ups that we don't know we have right now, the hookups, are being repaired. One of the things that the frequencies are doing and what they're calling quantum computing and stuff, it's our self-repairing brain-mind hookup that is actually just doing all the work that needs to be done. That's why we need to work upstairs there more, because when we're doing that, we start finding out, oh, how'd that happen? Oh, that just came on. Wow, where did I see that before? All this stuff starts coming together. That is what the difference is going to be. And there can't be any cheaters in that, because it's only who it works for. It'll work that way, and everything in its own order after that. So, the quantum systems that one's talking about, those are certain things that were old technology that was re-engineered and I would want to say backward engineered, but they really couldn't do any kind of backward engineering, so they have to do forward things and put little suckers and stuff on it to try to get it to work in a certain way. But the systems we have, it's the one system that's always been. That's the one that you're going to be experiencing and living with. Islam.
Islam. So now, over the next couple of weeks and months, there are some things that we have to do also. And again, I mentioned this earlier. I mentioned it last week on the call, so just kind of be on the lookout for it. And then we'll mention it again as we implement it. In the coming weeks, we are going to be doing our part in order to match up with our ancient system in terms of opening the Moorish bank. Okay, savings and trust is what it is. It is not a fiat-based anything. So there's no fiat at all, and in fact, fiat is forbidden. And what it is the heirs, in the same way, now many of you may remember the 666 trillion that we put on the public record, 2018, I want to say, or maybe 2019. There was that's right, 2018 was the lien on the service corporation, and 2019 was the gold standard and the 666 trillion. And so when we put that on the public record, that was to give the heirs a heads up about creating sovereign credit instruments. And so the heirs, the only way that you'll be able to make a deposit into the Moorish American Bank is you must be competent, and we'll show you, the templates are going to go out, but you must be competent to create a sovereign credit instrument. Okay, knowing that it doesn't have any capital letters, it doesn't have any, it's not connected to any corporate numbers like EINs and, you know, all of that. It's none of that. And you cannot buy it. It must be created by the sovereign heirs, and it's going to be up to a certain amount. And the only reason that it's not implemented right now is because we are putting the charter, because everyone who sends in a deposit, it's got to be an original deposit just like any other lawful affidavit. And it's affidavit that you can create right where you are. There's no fiat at all involved, and in fact, fiat would be a corruption of the system. And that is in, again, there are going to be some things that are going to be laid out over the next few weeks and months, so just please be patient. But the charter will be sent out and published on the public record. The bank charter will be published on the public record so that all heirs can see exactly what the Moorish Bank is all about. I have had this discussion recently with some of our teachers, and we know that it is exactly what we should be doing. And then all of the deposits from the Moorish Bank will go on the public record. Okay, all of the deposits will go on the public record, but it won't go on the public record as in pinpointing certain Moors that have a deposit. It will just be that the heirs will be able to look at the bank records anytime and see, okay, our bank has this much in it in sovereign credit, or that much in sovereign credit. And from there, we're going to connect that to that whole quantum piece. But there are some things that have to be in, that has to already be in place before that happens. Okay? So, again, we're putting the pieces like our ancestors give us line upon line and precept upon precept. And as we demonstrate competence in those precepts, they then give us the next piece. And so because all Moors have been bold and demonstrating their sovereign status with either sovereign credit instruments or simply declaring who you are, however you did that, however you're doing your demonstration. And it can be, Justice Frank, I see what you're saying in the chat. We even can spell deposit D-E-E-P-O-S-I-T. We can spell it with two E's, or we can put an E on the end of it, and it will still mean what we mean for it to mean. But I appreciate that because you are absolutely right as well. He's saying in the chat, it will be a preposit and not a deposit. It's not a deposit in the way the corporates meant it. Their deposit means to move it out of its position. Their deposit means to revenue, move the venue to their unlawful jurisdiction. That's what their words mean. But that's why they put it in, they put a capital D, or they put a, yes, Islam Justice Yisrael, he said to negate. That's what DE means when you're talking corporate. But if you put another E after it and you speak in ancient English, it's going to put deposit back to what we thought it was and what we knew it was back in the day. We get to determine what our words mean when we spell them the way we spell them and not the way they do. So that's going to be coming in the next few weeks. We're currently working on the bank charter. It's a little bit expensive, but not really. But everyone will have access to read it before you send in your deposit or your preposit, whichever you choose, or your sovereign credit instrument. I actually like to say sovereign credit instrument. And then the sovereign credit instruments, we're going to take it a step at a time as we implement, because every step that we do, we want to remain competent, because we all are. We want to remain competent, and we are not a part of any corporation or corporate system, because they cannot use gold and silver. But you all and we have the authority to create gold and silver sovereign credit instruments. So when we did the 666 trillion, that was a precursor, and it's not a precursor unless you spell precursor the way we spell it. But it is a preview of what we're moving into now. So we see the pieces coming together, and we already know it's a wrap, just like Justice Frank said in the chat. Empress Valerie Price Bay in the chat says, what should the heirs do with their fiat at this time? Do what you've been doing. Whatever it is you've been doing previously, do that. However, terminate all corporate contracts as you move in that way. But if you think about it, most of the heirs don't even use fiat or have fiat, because we've been swiping cards. That's not fiat, especially when you terminate the corporate contract. When you terminate the corporate contract, then you begin to move sovereign credits back and forth. And so, very seldom do I even handle fiat. Very seldom do I handle fiat. Most of the time, it's sovereign credit going back and forth, because I've already nationalized my account. And it's no longer a bank account, a corporate bank account. It is a sovereign resource owned by the heirs, a sovereign resource. And so, of course, yes, in the chat, we know that other piece is a wrap. Empress Carla, can you expand a little bit on your question? How do we do that? How do we do which part?
Empress Michelle, I'm sorry, Empress Light, how do we change our Navy federal account over to a sovereign account? I did terminate the corporate contracts and a lot of other things, but my account don't say anything different than what it normally did.
Yes, it's not going to until we connect our bank to this whole system that's in place already. What you did was you removed the corporate covering off of your account, and now it's not a corporate bank account. It doesn't belong to the United States Corporation Company anymore. And that's really kind of the only reason that there's anything moving back and forth, because anything belonging to the United States Corporation Company has been, for the most part, frozen. Look carefully, just listen to the news and they're already telling you that they are taking things that they say are under their contracts. And so the only reason that we're able to move sovereign credits back and forth is because we terminated the corporate contracts. So they're not freezing any of our stuff. And so now, Empress, what we're doing is moving into the place where our sovereign credit instruments not register, because that's not the right word, even though register is our word still, but we're going to use a different word until this corporate piece is all the way off the land and everyone has a good understanding. But we're in the process now of connecting our sovereign credit instruments to the ancient system that was always here, where we can go on to the internet. Because remember, the internet and these banking systems where you can type something in and see what's there, that stuff begins under the earth, under the land. They had to run what they call fiber optic cables and all of that to get that to manifest. And since the land is ours, it's always been there. Those are our systems. But we must be competent to be able to use them. And that's what we're doing now. We're moving in that direction. And heirs are right now being given time to move out of that capitalist system so it can continue to burn like it's burning that corporate piece, because the corporate piece can't be here. And that's the part that part of waiting to manifest, and we're not really waiting. We're doing what we're supposed to be doing, which is demonstrating. Because again, all of that is ours, but there are still our brothers and sisters. They need to wake up too, and we don't have to wait until everyone wakes up. In fact, we're building the bridges now. All of us are building the bridges. All Moors who are demonstrating their sovereign nationality are building the bridges so that our brothers and sisters who are asleep can go ahead and wake up and have access, equal access to all the sovereign credit instruments, pieces, everything that's needed. Okay. So that fiat system is no longer, the capitalism is no longer an issue. You know. So right now, Empress, your account will not register. Register is not the right word. It will not. The sovereign credits will not show just yet. And that's why it's important for us, again, the process that we're doing with the bank is the same process that we've been doing with everything else, with our courts and everything. We have to get it started and put it on the public record. And when we get it started and put it on the public record, it's a proper rebuttal to the fake corporate. We can't tell the corporate that, you know, you're fake if we don't show where the real is, because all they're going to do is come back and reoccupy. And that's the part that we're getting rid of now. We're through with that. So now we have to be our own court, which we are, which is beautiful because that means we don't have to go to theirs. And we know how to articulate that we don't have to go to theirs and they don't have jurisdiction. And we have to do the same thing with the post office, with the banks, with everything that we want to use. And I can tell you right now, we're there. We're there. We have everything we need. We're just putting the documentation together for that. Islam.
Just to piggyback on what you just said, I did the termination of corporate contracts and the whole bit with the bank, and I, like you, didn't see any change to the account. However, just yesterday, I wanted to use Uber, and I had an account set up, and I went to use it and had a weird message. It said, "This type of account will not work with Uber." I thought something was wrong with the account. I logged in online and looked, and everything looked the same, but somehow Uber would not accept it. So I don't know if something's changed in the background or what, but it was interesting to me. That I yield.
It has changed, and someone needs to lean Uber so that they can, you know, so that they can get on out of the way, because Uber is our sovereign resource. That's not a corporate, in all capital letters, sovereign resources. It's Uber in all lowercase letters, which is actually how they started out, in all lowercase letters, and then they hypothecated. But they couldn't create that. We had to. So, yes, the system is changed. I can tell you for sure. I know that for sure because the Moors have changed it. And those changes are happening as we show competence to do so. And that's why we've been given the go-ahead to make these next moves that we're making as a nation and as a government, and that's all of us. We're all moving together. None of us are moving separate from one another. We are already the Postmasters General. We've said that on the public record. That's all of us. We've all said it. We're going to make an announcement where we're opening, making it official. It's already official, but this consulate here is going to be making an announcement about that Postmaster General piece and the post office piece, because we've gotten some new information and the go-ahead from our ancestors to make that announcement, so that we can, again, continue connecting what we're doing sovereignly with our ancient quantum financial system. But there are things that have to be in place. Everyone knows that those things have to be in place. If you know finance, you know that the post office was the first where the finance started and where the gold-backed finance was initially, and always has been, really. And so that's why the ancestors led us to do the demonstrations that we've done and the proclamations that we've done in the favor of all Moors. So we haven't left any Moors out. All the Moors have to do is continue studying and demonstrating their sovereign status so that everyone in those areas, in the territories, knows that they are who they are. Okay. That's a good point that you're making, Justice Timothy. That's a good point you're making right there. That's a point you're making. Go ahead, Empress.
This guy, Mark K. Christopher, is stating that, I don't know if he said October or November, that there's no fiat will be used to be able to purchase. It will be strictly crypto. What does that? Is he talking to U.S. citizens?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to talk to U.S. citizens. I'm a little bit familiar with some of his stuff. I don't really watch that kind of thing because I see where it's coming from. And that's not a slight against him. He needs to declare his nationality and come out of that corporate capitalism that he discusses there. We love him, and we honor that he's doing the study. But just a moment, just a moment. He's doing things from a citizen perspective. He started out with good intentions, but he did not see what you all see and know about nationality. So he ended up going back in the way of pointing people back to corporate, and that's not what we do. That's not how this works. Go ahead, Justice Gilmore. I yield.
I was just going to say he declared his nationality. He's a U.S.N.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
You notice he's bracketed by two flags.
Yes, I know.
U.S. flags, which are the banners. That's what I was drawing attention to earlier this evening when I saw.
Absolutely not valid.
So he's a U.S.N. at this point. But he has time to change.
And that is, well, and unfortunately, U.S.ians don't have a bloodline or birthright.
Exactly.
So he's going to need to actually nothing. But one thing I do know is that he's seeing what's being done. He can't put his finger on it, so he had to go back to the citizen piece. He knew that the changes were being made, and I don't know how they see it. Somehow in their minds or somehow in their research, they see that the system has changed. I want to know what they see because I know who's doing it. I know we're doing it. But what do they show the citizens? Because, see, I'm not a citizen, so I don't look at what they look at. But every change we make, they announce it. And I'm like, how do they know? But they know. You know, so I'm grateful for that because it is, you know, Empress of Moore, that's not a real thing. He's a USA citizen. That's not a real thing. It's one of Justice Jerimore's Phoenician words where he just coined the term of USAN, and which is not a nationality, and they make up everything else, so that's not nationalities and you know, all of that. So that's not a real thing. But yes, he's very fast asleep, and we hope that at some time soon that he will proclaim his nationality, whatever that may be, and I don't know what that is, and do what needs to be done, whether it be get in subject status if he's a subject or get into his sovereign status and begin demonstrating his sovereign nationality. Unfortunately for him, a lot of the people who are seeing what he's doing don't have a nationality. They don't have a nationality. That's why they're looking at him, because, you know, he displays some of the characteristics. He has brown skin. And so they're thinking, well, maybe he's going to, you know, I don't know. But
Islam. He stated that he stated that he wasn't a sovereign.
Okay. Well,
yeah,
that's the problem.
That was interesting.
That's a problem.
Yep.
That's a problem. That's a problem. So, and that tells me that he did a little research and he knows. That means he did some research. What is it that told him that? And who asked him if he was or not?
No one did.
Who asked him? Well, most likely the Albions probably asked him because he does citizen speak. And again, the only time they can talk is when they see another corpse or one that's bearing the clothing of a corpse. They can't talk to us. We know that already. That's why we create our own everything, you know. But they're asking that question of him because he talks just like one of them. You know, he uses citizen terminology and he accepts fiat for what he's doing in terms of, you know, all of his processes or whatever from what I hear. That's just what I heard. I don't know. I don't know that for sure, but that's, you know, those are things that people have stated who've done business with him, you know, and then they realize that, oh, I don't have to do that. I'm a Moor. And then they stop dealing with that. But again, we don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We're going to look at everything on our land and see what is it we can use as long as it's not corporate. We know how to clean it up and put it in the right jurisdiction and revenue it back and revert it back to the heirs, to the sovereign state. You know, you all already know how to do that.
Islam. One of the things that happened is that he got the sovereign citizen information from Miller, David Wynn Miller, and that is in fact what has been driving a lot of the information he has. But he's going to wake up to the fact that everything that he has picked up from that information that David Wynn Miller was putting out, the information was good. It was a little bit skewed, but in fact, when you moor it, it's perfect, because then one can relate directly with it. But until that time, you know, he's just seeing. He's looking at it from the bottom up. He's understanding it at this point.
Yeah, Islam.
But he'll come awake. Moors do that. They have a funny way of Waking up, when it's time to wake up. Islam.
So, you know, they are taking the long way around trying to get to where we currently are in terms of our sovereign status and our the status as heirs and all of that. You know, they're doing all of that, and we actually have already proclaimed who we are. But the wake up is not going to be at the same time for everybody, because right now we're building the bridges and the processes that those who are going to awaken will want to use as they wake up. And then they'll take off and come up with all processes that they, you know, to take it even further, you know. And we are all for that. We're all about that, you know. So they'll keep searching, and that system, the reason people are searching is because that capitalism system is squeezing necks and stepping on necks and choking people out in every way. And it's our turn to, you know, we have to do what we do with regard to our estate. So if there are no more questions or comments, etc., hopefully we have, responded as to the questions and comments as well. And thank you to the Moors who respond to the questions as well, because the answers are with all of us, not just one of us. So all of us can answer the questions that are brought forth on these calls. And we're all encouraged to continue to do the study so that we...
Empress Light, for your information, you are half muted.
I am?
Yes.
I don't know why.
Not
can you
fully,
hear
but
me at
you
all?
are. You're half muted.
I can hear you.
I never saw that
Okay.
till now. Islam.
You know what? I'm not surprised. I am not surprised. It's been acting a little bit, you know, less than noble. My system has. So, but it's much better than it used to be. I can tell you that. Definitely much better than it used to be. So, with that being said, we're about 5 minutes over. Yes, and Princess Ali says Mercury is in retrograde. That does have
Dinner
something
time.
to do with it. But yes, it is. It is time to put a pause on our call, and we'll be back again on Thursday. And stay tuned. We're going to continue doing what we're doing with regard to all. We're manifesting our post office. We're manifesting our bank. Court actions. Are there any court actions over the next few days and weeks? Everyone must do at least 3 court actions in order for you to properly, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but the court actions are necessary with regard to our estate. Let me put it that way, okay? They're necessary because you must be able to govern your vast estate. You must be able to. You must be able to. No one can do that for you. Islam. All right, back at the more and grand rising to the heirs. Islam.
Islam, peace and love.
Grand rising. Peace and love.
Grand rising.
Long live the empire.
Islam.
Yes.
Long live the empire.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Islam.
Grand rising. Peace and love. Grand rising.
Islam.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Grand rising.
Much love.
Grand rising.
Keep going, y'all. Keep going.
Grand rising.
Yes. The empire.
Grand rising.